like to call the meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everyone and welcome. Welcome to everyone in the audience and watching at home. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Carter?
Present.
Trustee Mariscal?
Present.
Trustee Kazam?
Present.
Trustee Gatt?
Present.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Present.
Trustee DeVore?
Present.
Okay, got everyone here again. That's terrific. We would be at the approval of the minutes from the departmental meeting on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second?
Second.
I have that. Any questions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. We'd be at comments from the audience. Anyone who would like to address the board, if you'd come forward and state your name and address, please, and try to keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Mr. Schlink? Is there...
Can I just sit back here? It's hard for me to walk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that okay? All right.
I know, Chris, can we get a mic over there so one could hear her at home? Is that a way to do that?
I don't have that set up.
No? Okay.
I can move that one over there. It's fine.
I can move that.
Can you make it?
I can move the board.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move it.
Yeah. It's long.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. No, this
Just
one's
want
good.
everyone at home to hear you.
Great, thank you very much.
It'll pick you up. You're good.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
thank you. Well, I'm Mary Schlink, and this is my husband, Bob, and I am a native of Peoria Heights. I graduated from St. Thomas Grade School in 1954. My dad was Bud the Barber, right over there on Prospect. You're all too young to know him. Anyway, we no longer live in the Heights. We raised our children here, but there was no flat place to have a house, and my knees wouldn't let me get up and down, so we moved to East Peoria. But we still feel like this is our home. And we are members of the Peoria Heights Suburban Lions Club, and we have been trying for the last couple years to get some new playground equipment. And some of our members have come across with some money. We have, what, 590 now, and 340 more to come. So we've got $1,000, and a few years ago, the village and Richwoods Township helped us put a new roof on the shelter at the, I don't know if you know where Lions Park is, but down here.
It looks beautiful. We know where it is.
So anyway, that's what I'm back again today asking if there's some way. We have checked with this Team Real company. I have pictures of their playground equipment. And if we get so much, they will help us try for grants. But we'd need to have at least $1,000. So far we have what, 590 from our members. But we could get perhaps grants to get more. And we'd like to have, I know St. Thomas School is going to try to get $100,000 and put a really big playground out here. But we hope to have something for everybody to play at that playground. But we can't know what we're going to do till we know what money we have. So I guess that's what I'm here for, asking you if you'd like to make a donation.
I want to thank both of you for all you've done for the community. You're always here to do something for the community, never to ask anything for yourself. So thank you for that. Mike, do you have any ideas on this?
Well, basically, I can research and look for, the grant part of it, but I don't know if they're going for the grants, but, cost and stuff is a little pricey.
What do you think, Dustin?
So Mary, you're looking for an extra $410 to make up that shortfall. Is that what you're asking for? And then you could proceed with the grant application? So is that what you're?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, all requests have to take board action. Why don't I give you a call tomorrow and get a little bit better idea and game plan of what we're looking at, and then I can get something ready for the board, and I'm sure that they would love to hear that. And, I think we're all very appreciative of Lions Park. So does that work?
Well, I had talked with that Kim Blickenstaff's nephew, and he said he was not interested at that time, but then I was asking him for the whole playground stuff.
Okay.
So I left a message there again today saying, we've raised, our club has, as you know, service organizations, there's not very many people anymore, and they're all old like we are.
Well, let me get a shot at him. Maybe he'll listen to me. So, I'll leave your number after the meeting, and I'll give you a call, and we can go from there.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Oh, and what was the other thing? One other thing we were going to ask about, and I don't remember now. I guess if I remember, I'll raise my hand.
When you get the money for the equipment, do you have someone to install that, or are you looking at our folks to install?
Well, we can do that. I mean, we can have somebody install it. I don't think it was Police Chief Sutton was there, but you came to our Lions meeting, or you sent somebody to the Lions meeting?
I was there.
Were you?
There, yes,
Okay, I
yes.
thought.
Yeah.
He
He had
said,
the
no,
steak
I don't
dinner."
think. So, but you said village,
Yeah.
people from the village would help install it. And, but of course, we have to get the money to know how much we're going
Sure.
to get. Now, what was it? I thought of the question I wanted. Oh, the old one that's there, we would like it to be torn down. My husband and I both feel like it's been repaired for as long as it can be. Now, we mentioned that, us tearing, whoops. What?
We had a gentleman 5 years ago come up and repair it for us. And at that time, he gave about a 5-year time span on the life of it.
And
We're just about the end of that 5 years, so personally, I don't want to make the decision to tear it out.
well, that's,
But that's why I'm asking if maybe the village might be able to give us a little advice on the actual condition of it.
the safety of it, I guess that's what we're looking for.
Safety purposes and whatever, if it should be tore out or not.
I know one of our Lions said, Mary, I think it should come out of there. We should tear it out. So we brought that up at our next Lion meeting. And of course, everybody said, oh no, we don't want to tear that out. We don't want to tear that out. Why don't you check with the village and see if they think it needs to go? So that's what we're doing. That's one of the things we'd like you to look at it and see with you know, how safe you think it is. It's wood, and it's been up there, what did you find the receipt? 14 years?
We want to make sure it's safe, so I mean, that's something we definitely want to take a look at anyway, so.
Well, and I know that evidently you had some complaints here to the village about the playground. And the village called our president, and he came up and pounded it as well as he could. But, you know, wood after a while outside.
Right.
We'll help you get where you want to go, and Mike and Dave, I mean, there would be no problem, our guys helping get that equipment up, but if they got it, is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. We'll move on to old business. Is there any old business coming before the board tonight? Hearing none, we'll get right into new business. Public Works with Trustee Carter. The first is a discussion item, a resolution to retroactively authorize $5,888.34 of state MFT funds for the overage amount spent on roadway salt. Carol?
Can I make a motion to talk about it?
We need to send this to the full board for final action.
Did we already discuss this? I thought we already discussed this.
I think, yeah,
Yes,
we did. I think we did.
During our last meeting.
I think this is a mistake. We discussed that, and that needs to go to the board meeting for action, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
You're throwing me off here.
Unless this is a new.
I didn't catch that. That's my fault. I didn't catch that when you did the agenda. So next is,
I think we talked about spray patching, not the,
Right.
I don't think we talked about this.
we didn't do this, or?
I don't think so. no.
Okay.
Spray patching.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Not salt.
So, Mike, you want to set this up then?
It wasn't at the last
Come on up here and,
meeting, but we did discuss that the overage of the salt, we did discuss it on
Trustee Carter, I think you were included on the emails about this, so you probably are aware of it, but it's not been discussed before the whole board.
Well, okay, I guess we have an overage that we have to pay. I'm not sure.
Right, basically,
$5,888.34. We got to pay it.
right,
Actually got it, so.
and basically, I'm just gonna give you that line of when I buy it and all that stuff is, basically, I order, or let them know how much salt I need in March. I already did it for next year. I don't know if it's 200 tons, 500 tons, or 100 tons. So I went 500 this time because it's been snowing a lot more lately. So that's when we get into this, how much was budgeted and all that. And I'll let Stephanie take it from there on the cost-wise and things like that.
So essentially what was happening is the MFT, we have to get approval to spend state MFT funds from the state themselves. There are only certain things that we can spend them on. At a certain point, we realized, well, they were operating our budget on a calendar year instead of our actual fiscal year. And so once we were audited by the state, this was probably about 2 years ago, I spoke to them and they said that we could change that time frame, essentially move it to a longer period to get us on our own fiscal year so that the audit would be easier. So we went ahead and we did a 16-month MFT resolution. Part of the problem is, as Mr. Casey spoke about, we had 2 winters. And so he had to try to estimate how much salt we would need for 2 winters. And that's a very difficult feat. So it ended up that our estimates were off by $5,888.34. So we need to go back to the state and reauthorize those expenditures. We've already paid for this. It will not cost any more money. It's just simply getting the state to allow us to use the state MFT money.
Oh, okay. So I make or if we could just put it on the agenda for next.
Yeah, as long as there's consensus to move it forward for final action?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Something that you have to do.
Stephanie, what other things can we use that on?
We can use it on seal coating. There are some smaller expenses we can use it on, like street signs themselves. The problem is that for a lot of the smaller expenses, you have to purchase specific things from state authorized vendors, and you spend more doing that than you would by using the MFT funds themselves. We've found over the last about 5 years, we've been concentrating the MFT spending on seal coating projects themselves. So and that's the better way to spend it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you're ready to move on to the next item, it's an ordinance providing for the vacation of an alley at 4615 North Prospect. Trustee Carter?
Okay. Gosh, seems like we discussed this also.
Yeah, is this Mr. Travers?
No, it's a different alley, I think.
Different one.
Two alley vacation requests came in.
For
about
the
same
Atrium
time.
Hotel.
This one's a little different.
Okay, so do you want to update us on this?
I'd be happy to. I think this is something that needs to actually be at the board meeting, so this is, should be on the agenda for discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
is.
I gave everybody the plat when you came in, you probably see something about this side. This is an alley that runs north and south, right behind where the hotel is going to be. There is, it's all completely owned by KDB Group, and there's a sub-entity called Atrium Hotel LLC, but it's KDB-owned property, and there's no reason for the village to have that still be an alley, since it's going to be dedicated to use by that one property owner. You'll notice on the bottom, below the crosshatched area, we're maintaining the 16-foot alley that runs east and west, sort of between lots 5, 6, and 7, and lots 35 and 36. And then also the 12-foot alley that runs south of that point, which is behind the other properties, roads, and I can't remember what all's there. But anyway, there's no reason why the village should be obligated to maintain this any longer. It's all going to be part of their parking lot at the hotel, so I thought the request was reasonable, but it doesn't require more than.
What about those businesses that are there that the KBD group doesn't own? So like the Nook, Joe's,
Right.
so since the KBD so they would own that if we vacate this?
If we vacate it, it'll be owned by KDB. The Nook is down here.
right? It's right here. So it's on that alley, so you have the Nook, this is Joe's, this is like Oleo and Vino.
Correct.
Right, so what about these businesses? If we vacate this, will these businesses still have access?
They will, because we're not vacating that part of the alley that's behind those.
Okay, we're
businesses.
just vacating this side,
Just
Okay,
directly behind the atrium.
which will be their parking lot.
Yep.
Okay, okay,
And then you'll see this alley here,
Yeah.
that's here, right?
okay, yeah.
And then this is.
This is this part. So we're gonna have this out here.
Exactly.
Okay,
So it's really, they're only asking that we vacate that part of the alley that's directly adjacent to the existing building
Okay.
that they own.
okay.
Is that the mall?
So very appropriate. And I guess we can discuss it a little more at the full board meeting, it was just on for discussion.
So the alley, the 16-foot alley, is it really even an alley? I don't remember an alley being there.
Through the
Where does
back.
it go? It goes to the parking lot or a
Yeah,
dead
it runs
end?
from Duryea South down to Cyberling, then it tees and goes west toward Williams Brothers vacant property.
Yeah. So we don't need, there's no sewer or whatever, we need anything in that alley?
No.
We're going to address most of the utilities in the construction. I would think, I know there's a discussion at the zoning board about water lines and hydrants and all of that. So unless there's telephone or electric or something.
Yeah, I don't remember myself.
The standard language in the vacation ordinance is, subject to all existing easements, so we usually retain those easements anyway.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no objection, we'll move this forward for final action. Anything else, trustee Carter?
Nope.
Mike or Dave?
Do you want to do that now? Sorry, Dave, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have it. Dave has a couple.
Let me get my
of
notes out here.
announcements.
So back in March, when COVID hit, for the water company, we suspended temporarily the disruption of water service for non-payment. We are now reenacting or enacting that again. So if a resident needs payment arrangements for their water bill, they can still call the water office. We will work with them to make arrangements so that they're not shut off. If they do ignore their bill and their door tag that they get, they will be shut off. So
And there'll be a fee to turn.
yeah, it's $30, I think, turn-on fee. So it's important, if you need assistance, we'll help you, but don't ignore it because you will get shut off.
Okay, so right there, before you go on to the next one. So is there any way that we can put that on our web page just to let people know?
It's already on there.
Is it already on there?
Yeah, he said it is. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't realize that either.
Huh?
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
I'll make sure it's on there tomorrow. I'll talk to
And
Emily and
then
get,
have Sarah put it on the Facebook,
Yeah.
whoever does the Facebook deal, so
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
that chimes in on there will know.
yep,
Is there any type of grant?
grants
Money
for,
available to help them pay it off, or is it the only payment arrangements that you're offering?
I know that the Richwoods Township offers relief assistance, but as far as like grants through the government, I don't know of any, but we usually direct people across the hallway for assistance for that type of stuff. The next thing is road closure, starting between July 9th and July 14th. Montclair will be closed from Kingman to Highland for Greater Peoria Sanitary District repairing manholes. And I talked to the guy today, he said he believes about a week, it'll be closed about a week as soon as the work starts. And that's Montclair between Kingman and Highland. And then Illinois American Water has two projects that has caused road closures that are not in our city, but they are on the edge of our town, and they are redirecting traffic into our neighborhoods. I talked to Illinois American today. One is it's a water main break that happened Friday night up on Prospect between Belmont and Lakeside. And then there's a water main replacement project on Lake Street between Boulevard and North Indiana. And both of those traffic are being directed into our neighborhoods. I talked to a lady today there, and she said it's a 2-week time frame to get those repaired and open, but she's going to put a rush in to have that work completed sooner. So hopefully,
That one on Lake's been longer than.
yeah.
So.
It's already been 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I'll stay on her to make sure she gets those done, because I'm sure we're getting calls and complaints in the village hall.
I also just want to make a point on the shut-off statement that Dave made, is that list is much shorter than originally anticipated coming out of COVID, so which we're very happy about that. We've already had a handful of residents reach out for payment plans and fill out the paperwork, so it's not as bad as we anticipated, so just wanted to add that.
Dave, could you just restate those dates for Prospect again? Pardon me.
For Montclair,
For Montclair,
he
yeah.
said
The
between
9th.
July 9th through the 14th, so that would be, Thursday through Tuesday? He couldn't give me an exact date, and then he said about a week.
Thank
And I'd say, with Prospect being closed up here, people have been using that, so that's going to get congested. So hopefully Illinois American will have that open sooner than later.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Mike, do you have anything?
I just got a couple things real quick that, what we're doing, and spray patching on the east side of Prospect from Glen down to Clayton. The spray patch crew is out. They're gonna be back later this week. They got 2 crews doing it, so they're moving along pretty good. So if you see the gravel and the tar, it's us, our contractor, but we are doing that. We're doing a little asphalt work here and there, a little concrete work, our crew is. We got a little special project we're doing in front of the PAPS building. I'll fill you all in once we get more toward the end here. So, and Poplar Park, Greg and his crew, Kim Group is really cleaning it up. He just showed me some pictures of it, so they're gonna make it more of a beach area, so, and cut all the trees up like 10 foot, raise the trees, but cut the branches, that's what I mean by that, so, and they started this morning. I just seeing the pictures, I was like, wow, so.
There's probably a lot of driftwood there.
Oh, yeah, a lot of driftwood and a lot of different other things there, so. But they're cleaning it up, and I really appreciate that, just to let you know, so.
Thank you, Greg.
That's all I have.
So, okay, I have a question on that, Greg. It seems like we mentioned a while ago that you and Kim were talking about maybe putting like an ice skating rink there. Is that still a game plan?
Yes, it was. We viewed it this past winter time. It just was never cold enough to keep the lake frozen or the water frozen.
Right.
But you got natural berms there, and the depth of it was maybe 4 to 5, maybe 6 inches at the very deepest part. So we were scouting it out quite a bit, but just didn't have enough cold days to put water in there. But now, I mean, it's still naturally there. We can do it again this winter too.
Okay. I was just curious how that was going. It
Yeah.
seemed like we had talked about it, but then I didn't hear any more.
Yeah, so it was just the weather, unfortunately. And we are going to what's kind of called combing the beach, and that's going to take up all the the little tree saplings and clean them all up, and so that way we're back down to sand again and get rid of all the poison ivy that's out there along the beach too. So I was just down there no more than probably 30 minutes ago, and already had a couple of people down there, so it was pretty cool.
Good.
So yeah,
Where was this at again?
Poplar Park, right across from Beafield Park. Yeah, it's a great resource you guys have.
Other than it gets flooded.
Yeah. Not now.
But it's excellent right now, and I think this year, more than many years, people are really using outside kayaking and that type of thing, so hopefully that becomes a habit.
Exactly. I think once we get done, we'll let Mike Bailey kind of do a little press release to let people know in the Heights that, come down, like you said, launch your kayak, take off, and have a good time. So
Great.
thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to economic development. Trustee Kazam, we have an action item. So we will need a motion, an amended lease agreement between the Village of Peoria Heights and the KDB Group LLC. I'd ask for a motion to approve that.
I make a motion to approve this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I do, so go ahead.
So
Trustee
we've
Kazam.
all seen this, we've discussed it in the last 2 meetings, and actually, council has provided us with a new lease. We've had an opportunity to take a look at it. I'm going to defer to you to give us the highlights of it.
Since the last meeting, the only changes that have occurred were the rent. We discussed the rent fairly extensively. And you'll notice on page 2 at the top that the rent has been reduced from $2,500 a month down to $250 a month, which is $3,000 a year. During the first option period, it goes up, it doubles to $500 a month or $6,000 a year. And then for the second, third, and fourth option periods, the parties have to reach an agreement on the rent, or the tenant will just be deemed to not have exercised their option to extend the term.
Okay.
So fixed for 10 years. at $250 a month. The next 5 years is $500 a month, and then it's whatever the parties can agree on.
And just to clarify that, if the tenant were to change, this all would be readdressed?
It would all have to be readdressed.
Okay.
Yeah, this, the lease cannot be assigned, and no sublease, it's paragraph 7 on page 4, without our consent. So in that section, I put that landlord, village, is granting consent to Popcorn Works and Sweet Shop. And any further change in the tenant is going to require back to the board for approval. So we did the rent. We had talked about the union contractor requirement. You'll notice on page 5 in section 11.1, I've called out specifically our responsible bidder ordinance that needs to be complied with, and taken out the requirement that they use local union contractors. So they do have to hire contractors to comply with the responsible bidder apprenticeship program participation. Those were the only changes I think we discussed taking out. We probably did that we've discussed this at so many meetings, but the language on the option and/or right of first refusal, I think it was the last meeting that Mr. Berkland said they have no interest in buying it.
That's right.
So we took that out. Of course, we're always free to sell if we have, a party that wants to buy. We can address that at any time going forward. We're never restricted from that. So that's always an open option. And the only other issue that we discussed this at the last meeting, but it does bear some, consideration. And that is this, the history of this lease. It was signed at the end of January 2019. Rent started on January 1 of 2020. So there's discussion about that year, or I guess it was a full calendar year where rent wasn't paid. The language that I put in here on page 1 is that this is a new lease. We're waiving all of those prior defaults. So just be aware of that. If you want to discuss that, that's a decision that this board needs to make. Is it something they want to force KDB to pay that rent, that back rent, or not? I sensed that the board did not want to pursue that, so that's why I put that language in there. But I'm not trying, I want to call that out so that everybody is aware. Otherwise, the lease looks pretty similar to the last iterations. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Any questions?
The only question I have is regarding the offer and acceptance, the waiving the previous defaults. Was that something that KDB requested?
Not formally in writing, although I did get an email from Mr. Berkland yesterday making the specific request to have the rent reduced, but no, I mean, they in so many words, they have requested it. They've spent money on the Centennial Building, and we've discussed that, but no.
Yeah, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but I don't feel comfortable that the government initiated the waiving of the defaults. I really think that should have been an official request from KDB. Kind of blends the boundaries between landlord. I mean, your typical landlord wouldn't have just waived them. The typical landlord.
That's up to the board. We spent 2 meetings talking about this. You're welcome to make a amendment to this and see what test the water, see what everyone else thinks. But
no, I'm just curious on what everyone else thinks about the village government initiating the waiving of the charges. Not necessarily that I disagree that we shouldn't. It's just I didn't think it was appropriate that the action initiated within the village government, not necessarily a request from the leasee.
Well, a lot of, not all landlords are alike. I got a landlord that would be something like this. He's great. I don't have a problem with us initiating because of all the work they've done over there. I think it's only the right thing to do. I think we're splitting hairs if we're worried about that we initiated it or if he asked for it, so that's my opinion. I'm all in favor of going forward with it as is, as it's stated here.
All right, the question's been asked for opinions. Anyone have an opinion they want to express?
I will. I mean, I always do. I don't think he should have to pay the rent. For one, we made that lease, we made that agreement for a restaurant and bar. The neighbors threw a fit. He applied with the neighbors. He didn't put it in. How do you make somebody pay rent when he can't establish what it was there for? So I totally agree. He does not have to pay the back rent. We move forward. We get the popcorn candy, which I wish you'd hurry up because I want some popcorn. And let's move forward and stop dwelling on the past here.
Just for clarification, my question wasn't whether or not we should forgive it. It was whether or not we should have gotten an official request from KDB to forgive it.
I just had a question for you, Trustee Weisenberg. So it needs, in your opinion, it needs to be a formal written request, like a verbal request isn't enough? I don't know.
I haven't even heard a verbal request. I haven't heard any request. I don't think KDB has asked, period. This initiation to waive the debt came exclusively from this board, or I don't even know who even asked for it. When we discussed this, I don't think anyone on the board said, hey, let's forgive the debt. It just appeared in the lease.
Well, I'm pretty sure, I think I said something about it. I mean, there's other members of the board.
Shouldn't we default this to council? What is the law on that? You're the one that should know that.
The landlord gets to decide how and to what extent the landlord wants to enforce their the lease. You know, a lot of landlords will let people pay half rent, you know, for a month or two, especially recently with COVID. It's completely in this board's discretion as to what to do.
I listened to the videos. I'm 90, I don't like speaking in absolutes, but I'm 99.5% sure that no one on this board said, let's forgive the entire debt. No one even talked about it until I brought it up. So I'm certain that this board did not say, hey, let's forgive a year's worth of rent. It wasn't discussed. It just appeared in the lease.
I personally feel like in the way we discussed it, based on things that I know that I said, I feel like it was assumed that we were forgiving it because I know that I made several comments about how much the KBD group has done. So if I were counsel, I would have taken it that we assumed that we were forgiving it without an exact conversation, like point one, we're forgiving the rent, point two, we're doing this. Like I would have assumed that.
I would agree during the conversation, I would assume that it was forgiven also, but I think that Trustee Weisenberg wanting an official request, I think we have the individual here. I think that we could clear this up now if it's the board's, if that's the direction the board wants to take. I mean, just to clear it up as far as what the actual request is. I mean, Mr. Berkland, are you requesting that back rent be waived?
Yes, I am requesting that the bank rent be removed.
And if the board would like that in writing, I'm sure that we could get that in writing.
Yes, I can definitely provide that for you tomorrow.
But that's board's direction, like council said, you know.
And just for clarification, the reason I put that in there, first of all, I got the impression that that's what the board wanted, but beyond that, it was an issue that needed to be addressed. It was my goal with the lease to address all open issues. That being a major open issue, I felt like it needed to be called out, and that's just the way I operate when I represent any municipality, whether it's this or any other. You got to have something on paper so that people can see it, think about it, and then discuss it. If I had left this blank and didn't bring it up, we wouldn't have discussed it, probably, and then it would be another open question that we may have to deal with a year from now. So my goal in putting it in here was not to influence the board, but to raise the issue so that it can be discussed like it is now, and we can come to a resolution. So it is completely up to the board what direction we go. Again, was not trying to steer that discussion.
I don't want to trust speak for you, trustee Weisenberg, I think that you're on board with waiving the rent. Do I understand that correctly?
I am.
Okay,
I just
so-
wanted to hear from
So
KDB.
if Mr. Berkland were to provide this letter for us, just for the records, for the history,
Right.
it would be histrionic. then
Actually,
we
I'm
would have-
satisfied with what he just said,
Okay.
so I'm ready to proceed.
Thank you.
Trustee Weisenberg, does that answer your question?
Yep, I'm
All
done.
right, thank you, and I apologize for being short with you. I didn't understand where you're trying to go with this, so
No, it's fine.
thanks to both you and trustee Kazam for getting me on track.
So
Any-
I just have one question. Stephanie, on here with their payments of $5,000, so are they pretty much paid for the whole year? Is that,
So
Or is that 2 days?
Attorney Walton, please feel free to correct me. Specifically, what I see under the rent is that this commences on the first day of July 2020. So
oh, I'm
that
sorry,
would
I thought
mean
it said February.
starting
1st.
July 2020. I would need to correct the July invoice has been issued. I will obviously correct that if this is passed and reissue that so that the July invoice is.
Yeah, we sent another check out today,
Oh, gosh.
so.
I can return that. We can deal with that later, but essentially, it would start now at this rate. So no, they would not.
So what
be-
happens to the February 1st, starting, since this initial term starts February 1st of 19, was that the old lease?
That was when the lease was signed on January 23rd or 24th of 2019.
And then we
So I
put it
wanted
to
the
the
term
first.
to match what actually happened as much as possible. So yes, that's the reason I went back and changed it. Instead of January 1, 2019, February 1, because, again, the lease was signed at the end of January.
So technically, they're paid up for the year, kind of?
Well,
I mean, because well, more than that, right?
Rent, they started paying rent in January of this year at $2,500 a month. The
So
new
that
rent
goes-
reduction starts on July 1. So for 6 months,
They paid a higher rent.
they paid the higher amount, so we're not going to refund that. At least I don't sense that that's
No.
the move. The new rent starts July 1, so as of July 1, it's $250 a month. Is that your understanding? Just wanted to be clear on that.
So it's a rent reduction.
It's a rent reduction commencing the 1st of this month.
So then this amount should actually be higher than if they were doing 2,500 and starting in January of this year.
I'm sorry, which amount? I'm not sure what you're looking at.
You said 2,500, they started paying in January of this
I
year.
believe that's my
So that
understanding.
would be January, February, March, April, May, and June, 6 months, right?
Correct.
So this amount here is still, that's only 2 months' worth of rent instead of 6.
I would defer to the treasurer on
What are we doing
what,
with that?
That would be $15,000.
yeah,
So maybe we're forgiving that.
clerk, I don't know what payments you've received this year so far. I know they paid January.
Yes, so they've paid through the end of June.
Okay, so
And I will shortly receiving July.
we've received 6 monthly rent payments this year?
Correct.
Okay.
Totaling $15,000. Right?
Yes.
What
Anyone
page are
else?
you on, Diane?
I'm on the very first page of this.
Okay.
It's 4135.
I'm sorry.
I just want to
We're-
make sure that we're legit and
She's
above
looking at
board
the
and all on the
5,000.
same
Yeah,
page
this
with
is
this
fiscal year.
Okay,
before we
so-
go ahead and vote. Because, I mean, I'm okay with the $250 a month. And if that starts on July 1st, kudos, but we got to figure out, according to what you've got in the lease, is it going from when the lease was first signed back in February of 2019, all the way through when? Does it end? I mean, when are you saying they shouldn't have paid rent? Up through December of 19?
My understanding is they didn't pay any rent in 2019.
Okay.
It started
so
on
that-
January
so we're
2nd or
good
3rd
with
of
that,
20.
Right? So then they should have paid 6 months of $2,500
Correct.
a month from January to June, and then in July, they're going to start with the $250.
Correct. That is exactly my
Okay,
understanding.
so you have not received that according to this, or am I right or
This is
wrong?
per fiscal year, so this is only for May and June.
May and June. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, if you're ready for the question, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
That passes, and thank you, everyone. It's not on the agenda, but Pete, is there any, you want to give a quick update to the community and board on the business? How's you're progressing?
Yeah, obviously, we're real excited about getting this all past us, and we can move forward with KDB on getting everything, the white envelope ready for us to put a store in. We're finding that the candy stores and the candy purveyors, as well as the popcorn, they're starting to respond where the COVID had kind of shut us down. So that's good news. We've had several people over to the facility, take a look at it, including Journal Star, and also some of the people that will be part of our popcorn and candy. So, thumbs up.
Do you have an estimated opening date?
Well, we're hoping to have soft opening starting in mid-September, and then grand opening over Labor Day.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Let us know what you need, any help.
Thanks.
Okay, we're still under economic development. Trustee Kazan?
I just have some miscellaneous business. I don't know if you want me to announce that now, Mayor?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
perfect. So yesterday evening, we had the Peoria Heights Comprehensive Plan Advisory Panel Workshop. It was online, and members of this panel were able to log on and have a conversation with Housel Levine about where we are now in the comprehensive plan. We talked about the visions, the goals, and the preliminary land use recommendations that they found after having these different discussions. This was actually the second conversation we've had with the advisory panel, and things are on track, and it's really exciting. So I know a lot of the trustees participated in that call, and it was really fruitful. I think, did you guys feel like you got something out of that and understand where this is?
My honest opinion?
No. Okay.
I didn't. I thought that I could have read it. I did read it, and that's what they did.
Yeah. I think
Is
it's
his
a
name
little
Josh?
bit- Josh.
He read it like word for word, and I just didn't, I just think paying that kind of money that he shouldn't have to read things to us word for word. He should, I was just a little disappointed in that.
Explanatory.
Yeah.
I think that, obviously with COVID and doing things online, there is a little bit of a learning curve. I mean, I know that I was having technical difficulties listening to this from my house, and I think they were as well. It was a Zoom, it was a video and audio conference. And I will definitely give him that feedback because, it's one thing if you're participating like weekly or every 2 weeks with them and you kind of understand what they're doing, but if you're part of the advisory panel and you're just coming in and you really don't have that background, which most people don't, because I can give him that.
Right, and like that, what was the lady's name? Trisha.
Trisha.
Like she didn't read word for word. I mean, she
was
got
more-
us to the map,
Yeah.
and then she kind of just went over the map. That's what I thought he should have done instead of, I just was a
don't
little
disagree with you.
disappointed.
Yeah, I will definitely give him
reading
that
word for
feedback.
word. I can
because-
read,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see other things.
And you want to have more explanation of
Yeah.
what they're thinking and
That-
how they got there.
And that's just my opinion.
I don't want to.
We'll pass it on to them.
I don't want to dwell on the negative because I think they are doing a really good job. I was a little frustrated that they didn't know when Trustee Weisenberg asked about Hillside Park, well, that's what Google said. Okay, well, we paid you $100,000. I need you to know what that is. So I was a little disappointed on that aspect because my thought process was that they're going to do this so that they tell us exactly what we should be doing with all these spots. But if you don't know if that's accessible to the public or not, I kind of feel like that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, have they ever been to Peoria Heights? They would have known.
Actually, they have. They've made a few visits, and they came and did they engaged the community at Peoria Heights School, and a lot of us were there for that. And then they've been here, I think, on 2 or 3 other occasions. But those types of things, the area that Trustee DeVore and Weisenberg are referring to, it was confusing for me as well. And I was looking at it, and I think that is probably named as it was named potentially even in the early 1900s. I think that sounds like a name that was given to that area as a playground, a park playground, and it sounds like something that was, referring to the past. But it's really basically the hillside that's owned by the Park District from Grandview Drive down to 29, more or less. So that was a little bit confusing, but I agree with you. And I think I definitely will give them that feedback because we need to be, this is a plan that is going to drive our vision for the next 20 years. And we need to use all of the capabilities of their, we need to use all the tools in our toolbox to get us to something that's going to really help the community.
I also feel like we are landlocked, you know, that doesn't limit our possibilities, but I think every foot of property we have is valuable, and I want to know how we're going to be using it. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do with it to be the best for our village, you know? So I think that that's important with this comprehensive plan.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's really good feedback. And the other thing I wanted to announce was the local aggregation contract. I personally did not sit in these conversations, but Sarah in our office and others have. And this is, she listened to a bid day presentation via Zoom, again, because of COVID, with an energy company called Good Energy, who we've contracted with in the past. And we have decided to enter into a contract with them again this year. The last time we did that, I think, was in 2018, 17?
16.
It's okay. But we're excited to announce that we have an 18-month contract in play with them for .04185, and this is the lowest pricing since 2012. So what the residents of Peoria Heights really need to understand is that something will be coming to your home in the mail, and you can opt out. It's an opt-out only plan, and so if you're not interested in taking advantage of these price reductions in energy, then you can opt out. But right now, they're predicting that it's a $3 per month savings, up to $18, and potentially more if Ameren increases their costs. So,
So what's the company's name?
Good Energy.
Good Energy is like the aggregator. They go out and shop for the best electric costs. Ameren got out of the electric supply business. All they do is transmit and bill. So they have a default provider. And back in 2012, we went through this aggregation process where communities can shop for different suppliers. It all goes across Ameren's lines into your house. So it's all the same, but different suppliers have different pricing. Good Energy aggregates, goes and presents to all the companies that provide electrical services and comes up with the best deal they can negotiate on behalf of all of the communities they represent, which is a large list. Peoria, Creve Coeur, Pekin, East Peoria, the list is long. So you're getting that sort of bulk buying power.
Right.
Kind of, that's the best way to understand it.
So
Good Energy doesn't supply energy, they just manage it.
So when they send that card out, is it going to say Good Energy on it?
It probably does. I'm
so-
sure it does.
I guess my next thing is there any way we could put that on the website and on Facebook that if you get a Good Energy, you need to opt out? This is with the village, you know what I mean? Because there's so many that
It's
you
not a
get.
solicitation that isn't,
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of robocalls and that
Right,
type of
so
thing
they
people
just
are very
kinda know.
suspicious of. Yeah, that's a very
So,
good point.
do
And
we
to
want-
educate-
Do we want people to opt out?
No.
They can do whatever
I mean,
they want.
If you opt out, you get the default Ameren provider at the default price, which is absolutely going to be higher.
So is this a replacement for the home field energy or whatever? Don't we have a current supplier now?
Yeah, Homefield is the current supplier through Good Energy, and I believe they were the low bidder again in the aggregation this year. Don't hold me to that,
It's the
but I
same.
think it is.
It's the same.
Yeah.
If you opt out of it, if you send it back in and you opt out of it, you then will be buying your energy from Ameren.
And you're subject to
Right.
price.
So we buy it at whatever the market price is. I'm sorry, I speak that because I work there, but we buy it at whatever the market price is, and that's what we sell it for.
Correct.
And we don't mark that up at all. But these other aggregates, they'll go out and they will have so many customers that they can get it. They can
Correct.
shop all over the place.
Correct.
And Ameren doesn't do that. They just, whatever the market price is, that's what you're going to get it for. So if you
Exactly.
want to opt out, you'll be paying Ameren for that, just so
Exactly.
you know.
Thank you.
Well,
I think their default provider is Dynegy, but I'm not sure. But it's definitely a higher rate because it hasn't been shopped and bid competitively.
Right, and I think that those fluctuate as well, too, am I correct?
They do.
The ones, what's the name of the company? Goodfield?
Good energy.
Good Energy. I think those will fluctuate, too, based on the market. So if the market's good, you're going to get good price, so.
So you get locked in when you're in with Ameren? Or do they fluctuate also?
No, Ameren doesn't fluctuate, but you have the potential to save a lot of money by going with an aggregate because they can get the lower prices, you know.
How long are we locked in on this rate?
18 months.
Okay, in past, every time we do this, there is people knocking on the doors in the neighborhood, and it's not the supplier we've talked to and stuff, and they're trying to get the people to join in on that, and I've explained to my neighbors and stuff that you don't need to go with them. The village already has taken care of your situation, but I just want to warn the residents that there will be people coming knocking on your door, so we need to look out for Good Energy. Is that the name of the group this time? Because I've heard some really
We will put
creative names.
We can put it on the website. I think it's Good Energy. I'm not 100% sure as I sit here.
It is good energy.
Yes, definitely.
Because
So basically, the village has done the work for the residents, and they have found this opportunity to save money, but we want to give you the option to opt out. It's not, we don't command that.
So we will put this on our website and Facebook?
And thank you to Sarah. She actually took this off my plate and Dustin's and sat through a couple of very long meetings and did all the legwork on this, so thanks to her. Anything else, Trustee Kazan?
Just to be clear is that if you don't want it, you have to send because the first time it came around to me and I worked there, I thought, oh, well, if I don't send this in, I won't get it. But it's actually the opposite.
It's an opt-out program.
Yes, so if you don't want it, you have to send it back in. Otherwise, if you do nothing, it'll just go ahead and transfer you.
And there will not be any solicitors coming to their door trying to get them to, so, and don't we have a ordinance too against solicitation on the?
We do. If you have any questions regarding solicitation, and you just do not hesitate to contact the police department, we will come and check it out, so.
Anything else, Trustee Kazan?
That's everything for me.
Okay, just a quick mention, you should have received email last night that we received a letter from Senator Kaler receiving $50,000 in capital improvements, so I want to thank him, and if you have any questions on that, feel free to call me or email.
Thank you.
So Trustee Kazam, you've agreed to follow up with Sarah to get things on the website, and you'll
Yes.
contact Haas Levine to share the board's input? Okay. Let's go on to administration with Trustee Gett. First and only is a discussion of the Peoria Heights residential water credit. Trustee Gett.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Sutton has come to me and come up with a good idea. We've done all this for our businesses and stuff, and he would like to give them basically comes to a 2-month credit on their water bill for, how many, you said $20?
Correct.
So that's what we're looking to do. Chief, if you want to.
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Gett. There are a lot of programs that are introduced during COVID to help communities and residents. So what we kind of did, we looked at a program called the Ripple Program. We sat down, started to go through it. Had a lot of layers to it. You had to spend so much money within the community to get the $20 credit. The more we looked at it, we came up with an idea that I kind of wanted this to follow the same footprint as the stimulus grant for the business district as far as ease of use. We want to make it very easy, so instead of making the residents go down, spend money in the Heights, bring back receipts, go through all that for $20 credit, I'm recommending that we just credit every residential account $20 without all the red tape. I think it's a good gesture on the administration's part. We're in a position in water with a surplus. This is an amount we can afford. In a perfect world, I'd love to give the residents more, 100, but at this point, we have to be fiscally responsible. I think $20 credit. I know it's minor to some, it's major to a lot, but I think this is a good program. So it's derived from the Ripple program, but it basically rolls back to just kind of a small stimulus package for the residents, and it could help. And I just think it's a great gesture from the administration standpoint.
So I'm all in favor of it, so we're looking to put this on, we're going to discuss this some more, but we're looking, if everybody agrees with this, to put this on the next meeting for approval.
And I also want to give, the total that this would be for the water department would be $51,200 that would come to.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Trustee, got anything else?
Well, that's all I have. I'd like to
Chief,
put this
anything under
on.
administration?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Let's move on to miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous come from the board?
I have a few things, Mayor. Going forward, I would like to add discussion on the fire department to each agenda meeting, to each meeting's agenda. I want to keep the topic fresh in everyone's mind. We have a lot of moving parts. So if we added it as a discussion item, we could more quickly move something to a vote if we needed to. Is that how I understand it?
We will do that. Madam Clerk, please remind me to do so.
And then this week I sent out an email. A trustee had a few questions regarding the fire department. I just wanted to ask everyone if everyone was okay with the responses and if there was any follow-up questions to that email.
I thought the responses were very vague. Isn't there any way that we can make him give us that information? I mean, why do we have to, each individual trustee has to call him to get that? Is that the way I understood some of the answers to those questions?
I don't understand how it's possible that they don't have to be answered. Like, if, Mayor, you asked those questions, don't they have to be answered? Like, if we asked Chief Sutton those questions, that's not an acceptable response. Am I incorrect on that?
I believe if I ask those questions, I expect them to be answered.
I mean, we need the answers to those questions so that we can make appropriate decisions on this. Like, so we make the best decisions possible for the village in entirety. I think it's a little ridiculous if they're not answered appropriately.
And I'm glad Trustee Weisenberg brought this up, because what I need more than anything from all of you right now is feedback on policy and how we proceed. So that's critical to me and to Chief Sutton and to Chief Walters as well. So, I don't want to get too far off track, but this has been in the media, and I was interviewed yesterday, and nothing inaccurate there, but I told a long story, and that doesn't always make it out into the public. So talking about this amongst policymakers here that we televise our meetings is very important, and I'm asking for the public to please share your opinions with us. And so I will work in whatever direction the majority of this board sends me, but information is critical, and everyone in this organization should be forthcoming with the public's information. So Chief and I will be talking about that tomorrow, and Trustee Weisenberg, if you'd like to join us, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe Thursday, but this week. So if you would like to join us in that conversation, you're welcome.
Yeah, one of the struggles is, I've gotten the question that Trustee Marskell was referring to. I think almost everyone up here has asked it. And without that data, we really can't formulate any policy because we're really flying blind, if you will. So I don't think it's inappropriate for the board to know how many of our individuals go on calls. But so far, we haven't been provided that information. So I didn't know if the board could formally request that information, what that process is.
Chief
I've requested it twice. I've requested it twice at the request of the board, but I haven't been given it.
You've not got a response as of yet?
Well, I've gotten a response. The response was each individual trustee needs to call him, that he wasn't going to provide it
Well, you're a
Okay.
trustee, aren't you?
Can't we just
I
have them
a
come up
question.
here?
I'm sorry, I am so itching right here. This drives me crazy. This is so ridiculous that we have to come to this,
Every time.
right, where we're at right now. If the volunteer fire department, and granted, I want to make it publicly, I do not want to get rid of it. That's not my goal here. And I read all this stuff that goes on that social media, Facebook crap that, and people, comment that don't even live here anymore. What's happened in the past was a great thing. You had tons of volunteer fire people that actually lived in the village of Peoria Heights that wanted to be a part of the community, that wanted to help and be a volunteer fire department. This list that we got, I want to know, firsthand, I want to know how many people actually go to every call. I want to know how many people actually live in Peoria Heights. Not some, half these people I've never heard of, so I don't even know where they live. I want to know where they live, honestly. If we're giving them $38,000 on a budget for us, I don't want to say stipend because I don't really like that word, for them to go out on a call, I want to know who's getting that money. And if they live in the Heights, I want to know. And I want to know if they actually go out on the call or if they come here and sign a little waiver that, hey, my name's on here, I want $35, $50. I don't even know what they get paid. That's beside the point. I have all respect for the firefighters, whether you're volunteer or you're paid. That's my first gripe. Second gripe, I sent most of these questions, me personally. So if Chief Walters wants to call me again, I'd be more than happy to have another hour discussion with him. But I want to know answers. I want to know, you got to think about, we have almost $400,000 worth of equipment out there we're paying for. Whether we keep it or not, we're responsible for that. That's $400,000 that we're paying for, and we can't get our answers. And if he reports to you, Mayor, then I think maybe instead of us sending all the questions to Brandon, which is, over the fire or however you want to word it, maybe we should send the questions to you and see if you get the answers that we are wanting, because obviously we're having some debate here of releasing the information that we need to have so we can save the volunteer fire department. I definitely don't want to go into City of Peoria. If anything, I'll vote for the fire protection department and it gets on our property tax before I vote to let it go to Peoria. So, but we have to come to a conclusion here that the chief is retiring. That's huge. And not only is he retiring, Bob Hill will probably be leaving also. So now, off the list, who do we have?
Well,
we have no idea. We don't know who actually shows up to these calls because we have to call, each individual one of us has to call the chief to get that answered, and I just think that's unacceptable.
Yeah, just for clarification, you weren't the only trustee that has asked this, Trustee Carter. I think probably a majority of us have. I tried to get the information on how often the volunteers show up and who, and the times and the dates, just as you requested. And again, I felt like I've been stonewalled.
And that shouldn't happen.
Right.
Well, Stephanie, do you pay them for each call they take, correct?
No. I issue a check to the Peoria Heights Volunteer Fire Department once a month for $3,166.67.
And they divide it up.
What's that? What again?
That's, sorry, it's $38,000 divided by 12, $3,166.67.
Okay, so does that go into some account they've got, or help me out?
They pay as they.
What I know is that.
So there has to be, I would think there'd have to be some kind of a paper trail he would have to keep on who he paid and for what call.
Yeah, I believe you're right, and now, remember, I'm not over the fire department, but this is what I know. That is true. There is a set amount, but that is an internal audit that they document. It's like, I would say it's equivalent to us when we used to give money to the chamber. Once we give to the chamber, we didn't really know what they spent it on. It's kind of a good example of what happens there. They get X amount of dollars from the village, and they divide that up, fire chief, and then a stipend, whatever word you want to use, per volunteer fireman whenever they show up, and that's done internally over there. So hopefully that answers that question.
Are they audited then by someone?
Not the village, that would have to be an independent audit, just like the chamber would be. Now, that is something that we have corrected with, over the years, that we give money to them, we ask for an audit, but as far as what they do after that, I can't tell you what their records look like. I also want to, I think that everyone's on the same page here on what they need as far as the data to make a decision on what's best for this community, and that's public safety. And that's let's not lose track of that. But we can't do that without the data. So I think that if it's Mayor Phelan, myself, reaching out to Chief Walters, getting that, we will do that. There are a few different avenues that we can get the information for. The IT, I should say, incident that we went through months ago, there were some things there that we're able to look at. I'm not sure exactly what data I'm able to see at that point, but before I do that, I want to reach out to Chief Walters to make sure that he's aware of everything that what we're moving forward on and what exactly this board wants. But the mayor's right. We need direction from the board, what you're wanting, what you're not getting, and we will start to bottleneck this and get the information. I will have all the information this week for probably all options except for a fire district. That's a long-term issue that council could probably talk about that for hours. So I guess moving forward, what the mayor and I will do is reach out to Chief Walters, obtain this information, and pass it on to the board.
Yeah, and I hear you and I share your concern, and I know some of you have different opinions, and that's okay, but you still need information to make a good decision. And council, those are still all public documents, are they not?
Absolutely public documents.
Okay. So I will be meeting with Chief Walters this week. I'll reach out to him, and if you have any more specific requests other than what I've seen so far, please send them to Dustin or I, and we'll make that happen.
Just one quick question. So the money that we fund to the, what's it called, Stephanie, the contribution account?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's still considered public money. Shouldn't there be an audit? Like, I know each year the village has to provide an audit to the public.
Right.
Does the fire department not have to provide audits of their documents? Maybe that's a question for...
Well, can we require an
I
audit?
thought the fire department audit was included with the village audit. I'm surprised to learn tonight for the first time that it's not.
Well, I think it is as far as overall scope, but as far as drilling down into where those stipends go, I think that's an internal record they keep. I don't think the audit goes that deep.
That makes sense. It doesn't get that granular.
No,
Yeah,
it
that
doesn't.
makes
So it is audited, but as far as drilling down that far, as far as the audit, I doubt it. Yeah.
And I think Chief Sutton made a good analogy when he brought up the Chamber of Commerce, and this board used to give no strings, a large sum of money to organizations like that were not audited, and I applaud the board for changing that policy, and so that this brings up other policy issues other than the questions that have already been asked.
Yeah, sorry, let me be a little more clear.
Sorry. Another thing to tag on to you, Mayor, not only the chamber, I mean, if we all, well, not all, but Jeff should remember, I guess we're the only two older ones. I don't know, Diane, if you were on the board or not, but when, the Public Works would sell an equipment and have a little kitty down there where they could just buy equipment and not have to come to us, that was being handled, but that anymore is not being done. That has to all filter through us. So I don't see that, that department meaning volunteer fire department would be any different. It's part of the village. We should all be one. It should not be held captive or secretive or, let the public know. If you're spending money that you need, let them know. Maybe we could get more money, you know what I mean? This is just.
Right, and I understand that, but I think moving forward, and this is the last thing I'll say on it, because I know it's not something we want to talk about all night, but, I go back to the ambulance department. When I was involved in turning that around from volunteer to paid, there were a lot of things internally we had to change, and this will be no different. So I agree with you that there are a lot of internal issues that could probably be more efficient, but we won't know that until we move forward. But so I agree with everything you're saying, but.
And if I may interject, back to the primary issue here, which is public safety, that concerns me is that we have a chief who answers a lot of calls in the daytime, an awful lot of calls. Is a terrific guy, very dedicated to people and dedicated to the Heights, and I am concerned about that after his retirement. So that's the primary issue we have to be thinking of, which causes us to have other policy decisions before us. So I'm very concerned what happens after the retirement of Chief Walters, along with the difficulty in attracting volunteers to any organization. I don't care if you're involved with sports or at church, with scouting, whatever that may be. It's difficult today to attract volunteers. People lead very busy lives. So we have that challenge before us as well. So again, I know there are differing opinions here amongst the board, but I would also appeal to you. This is a very emotional issue, and we all know that. And to try and encourage everyone to respectfully move forward and hear everyone out, which I'm appealing again to the public. We want to hear your opinions, but let's try to keep this as level-headed as possible, and that will happen with good information. So I hear all of you, and I will be having a very serious conversation with the chief that all of you, including the public, needs to know what's going on and get that information, so the public can weigh in with us on an informed decision, and we can make informed decisions as we move forward. And there's a whole sequence of events that will be occurring, everything from a chief retiring to naming a new chief to deciding what options this board wants to pursue, if any. So I'm getting carried away. So Trustee Weisenberg, back to you. I'll let you finish up.
Sure. So the takeaway from this was the questions that we feel we didn't get satisfactory responses. Do you want us to forward those questions to you?
Dustin and I, that'd be great if you'd copy us both. And okay. I don't mind if, I think it's healthy so we all know what's going on, that we copy each other, but don't anyone else please chime in. So,
right.
I think we all need to see what's occurring here, and we all want to be transparent about this, and that's why we will put this on the agenda of all upcoming meetings. And I will be happy, Dustin and I will be happy to update you as we get information. So, anyone else?
I just want to echo what Trustee Carter said. We don't want to, I grew up here in the Heights, always had the volunteer fire department. Don't want to, but it's down, bottom line is the safety of the village. And I've gotten calls and emails and people on Facebook, which I'm about ready to get rid of, saying that we were looking to dismantle it and go straight over to Peoria and pay Peoria to come over, and it's nothing farther from the truth. I don't know where they're getting their information. We're not looking to pay Peoria to come over and take. Peoria is part of the Mutual Aid Act. They come in and take care because we don't have a lot of people answering calls during the day. I mean, it's not like when PAPS was here and we had plenty of people to come here and fill in all the shifts and stuff. I mean, it's, the volunteer is, actually, I'm sad to say, looks like it's going by the wayside because it's hard to get people to volunteer. It was hard that way with JFL, that's why we don't have it anymore. Couldn't get people to volunteer. That's minor compared to what we're talking about, the fire department. We're going to have to look at ways to take care of first shift. Now, if that means getting like a first shift duty crew, just first shift, and then second and third takes over for volunteer, I don't know. That's an option. We're going to have to figure something out because the clock's ticking, you know, and we don't have much time, so that's all I got to say. I'm in favor of whatever we got to do to take care of the village.
You said it very well, Trustee Gett, and one of the things I think we had to prepare for, just to keep in mind that, and you all know where I stand, I prefer the option of a duty crew, but we can't put ourselves in a position where we have to look forward and do a lot of deep thinking on this, because we can't get ourselves in a position where we're then adding a second or a third shift crew after that. So those are things that we need to keep in mind, and I think getting more information and seeing how those calls are answered will help us make those decisions. And lastly, as I said, I feel pretty strongly about what I would recommend. You all have the vote. I get to at least make a recommendation. But one of the things I said to one of the reporters yesterday is that, you know, even though a lot of us might not look to the city of Peoria as a viable option, we do have a terrific working relationship with them. I know police department, you are working together on a daily basis, backing each other up, both us, them, and them, us, and occasionally Public Works. I know we have a good relationship with the city of Peoria. We work together, and so they're just providing us with information that trustees have asked for. So I certainly don't want to make them the bad guy in this. They're not asking. They didn't knock on our door. Our administrator was directed to get some information from them, and they've been very good at doing that. So, and again, I think Trustee Weisenberg, you and Chief are going to meet with Chief Artis and get information from them for other board members who want that information. So, but again, and I would say this to all of my friends on the fire department: please let's let cooler heads prevail here, and let's move forward in a civil way. And I think most of us want to help Chief Walters get to where he wants to go, but we need to do a better job of communicating.
I got one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've recently received a suggestion. I don't really want to call it a complaint, but from a Mr. Raymond Lockhart regarding, and he gave me permission to use his name, regarding the village website. He finds it very difficult to navigate. A lot of the information, when he clicks on it, it's actually a download. Instead of displaying the information, it downloads a file. So he just wants the board to consider maybe looking at the website, making it a little easier to navigate. And I wasn't sure what everyone else thought.
I think we're all for that. You're our technical person. Can you work with Stephanie and Sarah to take a look at the website and see where we need to improve?
Certainly.
I know you're over fire, but can you take a look at that too?
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Welcome to my world.
Any other miscellaneous?
Doesn't Chris do their website?
What was that?
Chris does the website, don't you?
Yeah, Chris
So
does.
you just need to get with
Thank you,
Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Well, I know Stephanie and Sarah sometimes probably feed that information to
Okay.
Chris. So would that simplify things, Chris? Just trust. All right. Thank you, Trustee Weisenberg. Anyone else? Okay. We would be at payment of the bills. I would ask for a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second?
Any question or discussion on the motion?
I just have a real quick question. Have we gotten any kind of determination yet on, because of COVID, how we're doing? Has any of those
Thank you.
numbers come in?
So actually, Trustee Weisenberg had asked about that this morning. The June financials include the sales month of March. So I don't know if Chief wants to speak about this or not.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'd given him an update. Essentially, the line items that I'm looking the most at, that I'm most concerned about, are going to be state sales tax, home rule sales tax, and food and beverage. Food and beverage is obviously not too bad. In this particular report, it's down, sorry, I was looking at the wrong line item. It's definitely down from last year. Part of that is because there were late deposits last year, so this is a little bit misleading. But really, the important thing to look at is the state sales tax and the home rule sales tax are not very far off at all, despite the fact that this is containing March sales, which means that the village was closed for half of the month, and we're not far off at all. We will be getting figures on April sometime this month, but it's dependent on when the state releases them.
Okay.
Stephanie, do you have a percentage on how much we're down to quantify it?
No, I mean, it's so, you're looking at so many different businesses across such a large period of time that's saying, you know, maybe the restaurants are down 50%, but if you go into different types of retail businesses, some of them are doing incredibly well, some of them are not. It just kind of depends on the individual, and once again, individual sales tax is confidential, so I can't discuss it.
Super Liquor, Walgreens, Allwins,
But it's-
examples of people.
I'm not saying anything.
But it's fair to say that we're about in the same position now that we were a year ago, correct?
What I can say is that right now we are in so if you actually look at the bottom line for the general fund, yes, we are in the same position. Yes, the revenues are about $180,000 shorter than they were at this point last year. However, our expenditures are about $180,000 shorter than they were last year. So essentially
Which that is exactly what we discussed, that we would have to watch our spending moving forward to get through this tough time. And I think that all the employed department heads have done a great job doing that, and we're on a good pace, so.
I also think there's gonna be an like for my business personally, there's an increased sales tax for, like, I just paid my sales taxes for June today, and I paid triple the amount in June that I normally pay.
Yeah.
So I do think there's gonna be, like, we may see a surge, like, towards the end for people that came back. And then really, so we're able to sell more things as well.
Exactly.
So trustee DeVore, was that because you were working so much harder during that period?
Well, yeah, just because, you know, we did do curbside pickup and things like that, but the majority of our clients buy their product when they get their hair done. So now when they all came in, we sold probably triple the amount of product that we would normally sell in a month because we were trying to get people in from our being shut down through COVID.
That's good news. Let's hope that's the same experience for everyone else.
Yeah.
Good question around payment of the bills. Anything else, trustee Mariscal, you want to ask?
No, that's it.
Okay, so did we get the motion in the second? I think we did.
I have trustee Gatt and trustee Kazan.
All right, if we're ready for the question, Madam Clerk, call the roll on that.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal.
Aye.
Trustee Kazan.
Aye.
Trustee Gatt.
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg.
Aye.
Trustee DeVore.
Aye.
That passes. Trustee Gett,
Make a motion to adjourn.
do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all.